All right, hi everybody. I've twisted Steve's arm here into telling us about his airplane building experience and kit building.
Yes.
Um, Steve, why don't we start with, why don't you tell people what you built?
Well, my first plane was a Mini Max. I built that, flew it for about 700 hours. Then I also built a Ragwing Special, which is a Pitts replica,
Is that a two-seater or a single seat?
single seat.
Single seat.
And I wound up selling that to buy a Dakota Hawk two-seater. It's a high-wing Fisher Flying Products airplane.
Is that a side-by-side or is that a tandem?
That was a side-by-side.
Side-by-side.
Yes. And I think at the time I really wanted the Sonics. And so I built the Dakota Hawk, got it all completed and not flying, and wound up selling it to a gentleman in Australia. So, and then picking up the Sonics kit that you see behind us now. So.
And what phase of build was the Sonics in when you picked it up?
It would have been like a fast build kit. It was the wings were done; they needed to be fitted, and the rotovators put on, and so basically like what Sonic sells as.
What's the fuel system and the electronics and avionics? Did you have to?
I had to do all of that.
Had to do all that.
Yes, all the controls, all the rigging, the brakes.
So, 4-time builder.
4 times, yes.
Okay, so let's get into the questions here.
Okay.
Did you have any work experience that would have been helpful in building an airplane prior to your first build?
Yes, I worked in the drone industry for about 9 years.
So, yeah.
Everything from small radio-controlled military target plane up to Predators. So.
All right. Did that have any influence on you deciding to build an airplane?
Yes, that did, and a supervisor too told me that I couldn't build airplanes, so that really got me going.
It was a challenge.
It was a challenge, yes.
Just to break in the questions, you and I met as neighbors.
Yes.
When I moved up to Big Bear.
Yes.
And the first time I came down to L35 Big Bear Airport was when you invited me to come take a look at the Minimax.
Yes, yes, I was. You came walking down the street that day with the stroller and your daughter, and we got to talking, and I mentioned I built a Minimax, and you said you knew what it was, and I was kind of shocked. So it's not too many people do. So,
yeah. And we came down to the airport,
yep.
And it was actually a very fun day. We checked out the Minimax, and a original P-51 came in.
Yes.
And so I had a lot of fun. It wasn't, I think, too long after that I decided to get a kit, and was down at the airport quite often.
Yes.
All right, let's get back to the questions.
Okay.
Were you a pilot prior to your build?
Not on my first build. I was not a pilot. I actually learned to fly in that plane, so I wouldn't recommend the way I did it. But I only had maybe a few hours instruction in a cold 2-seater, and flying with some
And
friends.
that's because it qualified as an ultralight at the
Right,
time.
right. So there was no real training.
Yeah.
And I got in it.
So I'm sure that first flight was
it was
a hair run.
It was. It was on a lake bed. It was windy, and my friend said, "Well, it's straight down the lake bed." And I go, "Well, yeah." So. But I wasn't ready. It took off before I was even finished putting the throttle all the way forward. Still,
I found that, for me at least in flight training, the takeoffs. There's a little scary, but the landings are what really got my adrenaline going.
Yes. That was. It was a learning experience. It was a while before I could take off here at the airport. We would take it down to the dry lake bed and trailer it.
It's not like a runway where you're confined,
right.
To a narrow area. You have as much width as you need to put it down. Did you join the EAA at some point during your building process.
Yes, yes, I did. I think it was. I've been a member for 15 years. Maybe.
Did you attend any of the meetings, or was it for the magazine?
It was mainly for the magazines and stuff because we don't have a chapter up here in
Yeah.
Big Bear. So.
I think the closest one to us is maybe Apple Valley has it.
Yeah, Apple Valley, Palm Springs, and then Flaybottom, of course.
Yeah.
Chapter 1. So.
Would you recommend joining the EA if you're going to be building a kit?
Yeah, there's a lot of good information. The packet I got from when I built the Minimax, I flew it as an ultralight for like 10 years, and then I figured, well, it's time I get my license, so I went ahead and got my license, and I had to register the plane, and there was, I think it was 2008, the FAA allowed that one-time transfer of an ultralight to light sport.
Oh, that worked out well.
Yes, yes. So it was not very expensive. It was just doing the paperwork and getting it registered.
Yeah.
So.
Did you build? Well, I guess you built from scratch.
Yes, the Minimax was built from scratch.
Now, how did that work? Did you get just plans, or was it plans and materials when you ordered that?
Just plans. I did get some materials from them. The controls, which are push-pull cables, the wheels, the brakes, and
canopy, or was that something?
the canopy. I made my
Okay.
own fiberglass parts and stuff. So, because I had the experience of making parts from target drones and
Yeah.
spy planes.
So did you work with composites when you were?
Yes.
Yeah.
Carbon fiber, fiberglass, metal, whatever. So.
All right. What were the deciding factors in choosing your kits? Well, you've built 4. So what were the deciding factors for each one that pushed you towards those builds?
The first one was the Minimax because of cost. I bought a used engine, picked it up in Palm Desert, and I think I didn't have too much over 6,000 in that airplane, and it was flying. So.
And was that about what you had expected to get into it to finish? And how about time-wise? Did it
Time-wise, it was about 5 years.
And how long did you think when you started the build that it would take?
2.
So, always take that in mind. It's going to probably be longer.
Well, I was a lot younger then. I wasn't making a whole lot of money, so, it all depended on how much I made and what I could afford to spend on parts.
And you were working at the time as well?
Yes.
So in between, if you're retired and you have full time to work on a plane, it can be a lot faster. When you're working and you have family obligations and stuff, it can extend the time a bit.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Now, how about the other kits? Did they line up cost-wise to where you were expecting as you went through them?
Yeah, the biplane I built was scratch built too. It was just plans, and got it all framed up, and then decided on the 2-seater, and that's when I bought the Dakota Hawk. I sold the biplane. It was all framed and ready for covering an engine and all that. So, and like I said, Sonics is what I really wanted.
Yeah.
So.
Did you find that as you went through more kits that your builds got faster and faster as you had more experience?
Yes.
What materials were the kits that you built, and how big of a decision factor in those builds was the materials?
Wood. The Minimax was wood. The biplane was wood, and so was the Dakota Hawk. And I had worked in drones, so I had already had enough of fiberglass and carbon, and that was a deciding factor on this because I'd never built a metal airplane. So.
And now, having had a wooden fabric and a metal airplane, if you were going to build another plane, would there be any preference for you between those materials?
Not really. It would depend upon the airplane.
Yeah. How long did the build on the Sonics take for you to finish up?
The Sonex, like I said, I picked up as partially built. It would be like a fast build kit. And I was working at the time while I was building it, and then I did solar, photovoltaic solar for homes, and then the city in which I live reached their 5%, so I was out of work. And that's when I went full-time on this. And I guess it was about 6 months after that, because it happened.
So that came together fairly fast.
Yes, fairly fast, because I was full-time on it.
Yeah.
So.
Where did you build the airplanes, and what were the advantages and disadvantages where you chose to build?
At home. The first one I started just across the street over here on, right in front of Unicode. So,
Yeah.
And started over there until it got very big and got all put together. I still didn't have a hangar, kept it in a trailer. And one of the guys that was pretty instrumental in building that first airplane came by one day, handed me a key, and said, "Your hangar partner's name is Jack." And that's how I got my hangar. I've been here for over 20 years now. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, time flies because I feel
It
like I've
does.
just been here a minute, but I guess I've been here almost 10 years now.
Yes,
So
you have.
it adds up faster than you
It
think.
does. It does.
And did you feel there was advantages to building at home versus building it at an airport?
Yeah, at home you can get the family involved, and which is better in a way, because they're seeing what you're doing. You're at home. You can take care of things at home while you're building.
Yeah.
Uh,
I felt the same way. The Titan I built at the airport, and I just think it is a little better for the family if you're building at home. Sometimes if you have a wife and child, that you can take a break and help out with some stuff around the house. Was there a time like when you got to installing the wings that you wanted to be at the airport with the build, or were you able to do that in your workshop?
I was able to do that. It was in a lot right next to the house. So
Oh, okay.
I had the wings built. I built a shed in my backyard, a small 10 by 12 shed, and I added on to it to accommodate the length of the wings. It was kind of a gambrel type of shed, and I just added on 10 more feet, so it was 20 feet long and 10 feet
Did you
wide.
have heat in the shed?
Yeah, I had a little propane heater.
I think, depending on what part of the country you're in, here it gets pretty chilly. in the winter.
Yes, it does, just like today.
Yeah. We're in here suffering to provide this information. How much help did you have during the builds, and how crucial was it to completing your build?
The first airplane, the wife and my stepdaughter was very helpful in getting the wings set and the dihedral and everything. It's a tedious process. So.
Yeah.
And quite a bit of help there. That's when.
Were you in touch with a user group, or were there any other people that you knew building the
Yes,
Minimax when
yes,
you were?
there were two up here already flying. And I met them out at the RC flying field. And I said to one of them, Dalton was his name, I said, "Hey, I'm thinking about building this airplane." And I showed him a picture in the hobby magazine, and he's going, "Well, come on over to my house. I'm already building one." So I went, "Okay." That was it. I was
Is that where you discovered the Minimax? Was in that magazine?
in a magazine, yeah, in a hobby magazine.
And was it a write up on you can do this yourself?
Yep,
at
you
home?
could build the real thing. So yeah.
That is probably one of the least expensive builds that I think you could accomplish. I mean, at that price.
At that time, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I built that airplane for 20 years ago, you couldn't do it now. It would be. I built it for around 20 grand today. So,
Wow.
yeah.
So not as inexpensive to build these days.
No.
Is that a materials thing?
Materials thing, yes. Yeah.
What was the most challenging part of the building process of these airplanes? What gave you the hardest time?
I think on this one here, the electronics, this one has the new iEFIS screen and the wiring of it and the programming of it. You know, there's 9 pages of stuff that'll do, and I'm into the 3rd page.
So is that one of those where you get the manual like this and you're like, okay, by the time I finish this, I'm going to
Yeah.
be a pro EFIS
Yes.
programmer?
Yes, yes, it's that's a big challenge, getting that all set up and working right, and airspeeds properly calibrated, altimeter, all of that. So, and this one being a 2-seater, you know, I have a transponder and
Yeah.
uh, just a lot more to it and a lot more money. So,
Yeah. And this is the fastest, I would say, of the planes you're
Yes.
building? Yeah.
yes, yeah,
This is what I call a proper cross country plane. You could
yes,
go 300-400 miles comfortably.
yes, yes.
in
It's
this
a
one.
comfortable airplane. It's nimble. It's
Sure.
fast.
What
and
do you
it's
burn on your cruising? What do you cruise in this?
Probably right at 2,700 RPM. I get an airspeed of about 148 miles per hour, and it's indicated airspeed,
Yeah.
so it can be a little faster,
A little faster at
slower.
altitude.
Yeah,
And what's the burn, fuel
the
burn?
burn is right at about six
Okay.
gallons.
So, if you watched the other video, I've talked about my fuel burn. I'm flying a Cherokee 140 right now, and I find I cruise about 105 knots on a no wind day, and that's about 120 miles an hour. And fuel wise, that costs me about 9 gallons an hour in fuel. So there's a bit of advantage in the lighter airplanes
Mhm.
and some of the engines. This is a Jabiru 3300.
Yes,
And so you're at 2/3 the fuel consumption, and you're getting an extra 28 miles an hour out of it.
yeah,
So I think that's one of the things that a lot of people look at when they're looking at kit airplanes is
Yes.
the performance aspect can be very nice.
hmm
Um, how many parts did you have to scrap and redo when you were doing these builds?
A few of the metal ones when I was first starting, making some of the parts. Like I said, most of the control surfaces, wings, but you still need to make the bell cranks and stuff like that. So there was a few I had to scrap that were a learning curve.
Yeah.
The
Were
bending
you following the plans for the bell cranks and stuff, or was this
plans, yeah.
plans?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So during the process, you were like, that didn't kind of.
I didn't
turn
like
out.
it. Yeah, this is not perfect.
How much of a perfectionist are you, and how did this affect your build time?
That's what affects the build time, because it's an airplane, you know.
Yeah.
You want everything to be as right as possible to the plans, and it takes time. And if you're not happy with a part, and remake it. It's not
Yeah.
a big deal. So
This is, one of those things where there's like show quality plane perfect, and then there's a good flying part perfect. Where do you draw the line for yourself personally in your builds?
I'm kind of in between. I like a good-looking airplane, but
Yeah.
I like it functional too and trustworthy.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm getting at is if you're putting together a part and you look and there's a small deviation, say, in a hinged part that's been mounted, and it's a millimeter over to the right, but it's still airworthy and functional. Are you gonna order a new one and redo it, or are you just gonna accept that it's a good flying part? How do you?
I would
handle
probably
this?
replace it.
So you want it to all the lines to be right, or
Yes.
it's going to bother you.
Right, right. Like
Yeah.
the fit of the ruddervators to the fiberglass tips is about 1/8 of an inch clearance.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen some that are much wider. On this one, the canopy is a real chore on this airplane.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time making that fit, and a lot of parts
Yeah.
made over in the canopy process. So.
All right. Did you have factory support did you need any factory support, or were you able to reorder parts, or did you need to reorder parts from the factory?
So I did upgrade to the better tail wheel assembly. That was from Sonex. So my canopy has a crack in it. Unfortunately, I did that in the process of building it, so I'll be replacing that. So, and that comes from Sonex. So.
Did you join any user group for Sonics, and did you
Yeah, there's
take any ideas from other users
oh
building
yes,
the same
oh
way?
yes, that was quite a bit of the build is going to a lot of the builders' websites, and they have a lot of information that will save you time and money rather than finding out the hard way.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, the canopy is quite a chore on these things, and I think I had about over 20 hours in fitting it and making it to where I was happy with it. So.
Yeah, and I would say one of the, for me, and I'm sure a lot of other people, one of the benefits of doing an experimental airplane is the customization of it
Exactly.
to getting it how you'd like it to
Right.
be, and being able to look at other previous builders' builds and
Yep.
what modifications they made and what you wanted to take that this person did and that person did, and put them
Right.
together in your plane to get what you want,
Mm-hmm.
can be a nice benefit of building.
Yes.
What was the best and worst part of building for you?
The best part was the flying of it. The first time I got to fly it. The worst part was probably the canopy and the cowling, fitting the cowling on.
Yes.
It's just tedious, time consuming.
Time consuming stuff.
I was getting to the point where it's time to fly, and
Well, for people who aren't familiar with the building process, you're talking about probably two of the things that are in the last things you're doing. So you've already got that itch to fly.
yes,
And the plane is looking like an airplane.
Yes.
And you're just doing these last little bits to get in the air.
right,
So I'm sure the urge to fly is getting.
yeah. Most
Exactly.
people get them all built and fly them, and then have them painted. And I couldn't do that. I said, no, I gotta have a nice. So this one is painted and or not painted. I'm sorry. I use vinyl. This is a vinyl wrap on this airplane, and polished too. So it's polished and the vinyl wrap.
How I had a paint and polish plane, and there's a bit of maintenance that goes along with the polish. How has that been for you?
I did the initial polishing when it was first built, and just a little touch-up polishing right now. I could probably use another polishing.
So, how often would you say a touch-up would be appropriate with this? And this is a hangared airplane.
Usually where you get in, you'll drag your foot on the flat, and it'll leave scratches, and I'll polish that out.
So would you say like once a year, maybe?
Yeah.
And then how much time once a year, just so people who are thinking about a polish scheme have an idea of what
Well,
kind
you
of
need
maintenance they're going to do?
once you polish it, it's a lifetime thing. You'll be polishing it.
So would you say like
It's not
five
like paint where you wax it.
Yeah.
You know,
5 or 10 hours a year of touch-up?
probably more than that.
More, maybe 20?
Maybe 20. Yeah.
So, if you like the polished look, one of the things to contemplate with that
Yes.
is there will be upkeep on that.
Yes.
How big a part of building your own airplanes was the repairman certificate?
I'm still working on that. Right now, the FAA is kind of shut down because of COVID. So.
But was it a factor in your decision to home build that you'd be able to do your own annuals?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what do you think the savings are from having a repairman certificate and doing your own annuals?
Quite a bit. So, a few thousand a year.
Yeah. So, if you have a plane for 10 years and you're saving, let's say at least $1,500 a year minimum, that's,
It's quite a bit.
yeah, it adds up. So I would say for a lot of people, that is part of the draw to build as well, is that
Right.
you're not going to have to pay for annuals, and you're not going to have to find a mechanic and go by their schedule when the annual is due.
Right.
Did you ever think about giving up on the build?
No.
Did you pay to have any work done as far as paint, avionics, any portion that you subbed out of the build?
Nope, not on the name. I don't think. So.
Did you paint the Minimax as well?
Yes, I painted the Minimax. That was painted with the Stitz system. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy building, and would you do it again?
Yes, I'm already eyeing something. So.
So I would say, how important? I mean, if you just wanted to fly, do you think building a kit airplane would be the way to go, or is this something that if you enjoy working with your hands, it would be more of a direction?
It's more for people who like to build. If you want to fly and get into it right away, and some people are not good builders, just buy an airplane.
Yeah.
You could even buy a kit that someone else has built. You
Yeah.
have to be careful there and take someone who knows that. There's a gentleman that flies up to this airport with this same airplane, same engine, and he came and looked at it after I had the wings mounted and stuff, and he said it was actually a very nice build. So, and that is a confidence builder right there,
Yeah.
that he thought it was as nice as his, if not better.
So, finding an experienced builder, if you haven't built before and you're thinking about a partially completed kit and bringing them with you to look at a kit that's partially built, you want to buy, and making sure the work.
Yeah, absolutely.
done
Unless
to
you know the
standard.
airplane and
Yeah.
it built it. So,
What advice do you have for someone who's thinking about building an airplane?
well, first of all, you need to be able to afford it, because a lot of times you'll get in, life gets in the way, and it's a lot of money, and you have to.
You're married and you don't have a child, and you have a baby, and all
Yeah, everything changes.
Everything changes.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So that's one of the big factors. So.
Yeah, and it seems like you kind of had an idea of what the cost was going to be, and kind of kept close
Yes.
to that.
Yes.
I think a lot of people underestimate the cost.
Yes.
Probably because you built the maybe Minimax first,
Yes.
and so you got to see step by step where the
Right.
things are that cost more money than you might have expected, or
Right.
or how to.
Right. The wood was
get
fairly
stuff
cheap, and the parts. The fabric was reasonable. It was the paints. The paints
Yeah.
were. Well, then they were. It was over 20 years ago. It was
Yeah.
$600 for paint. Today that's probably triple that or
Yeah.
more. So.
And that's for a cloth.
Yeah, fabric
Plane.
airplane.
Now, you've had experience in wooden fabric airplanes
Mhm.
and aluminum airplanes.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel there was a time difference in building between the two styles?
Yeah, because once you get a wooden airplane all built, you put it all together before it's covered. Then you have to take it all apart and put the covering on and put it back together, where this is different. This, you get the sheet metal on the wings and they're done. So
Yeah.
you close out the wing and it's finished.
You do have to, do a little clecoing and
Yes.
deburring, and
Right.
but time-wise, you felt like this is a faster project.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, Steve, I want to say thank you for giving us your time today and
Okay.
telling us about your experiences. Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.